Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Behind the Small Business Podcast. My name is Kevin Dandino, and of course, this is always brought to you by Centennial State Insurance Agency. Today, I got a very special guest, my wonderful mom, Karen Dandino. Mom, how you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
Not too bad. Can't complain. Beautiful weather out here in Colorado, and you know, it's I love winter, but this isn't bad either.
Well, it's not summer, so we're good.
Exactly. We're in agreement there. Well, Mom, kind of want to hear your story when it comes to being a piano teacher, running a piano studio. A little different in some of the businesses we've talked to so far that have, a lot of employees or have a lot of, just different things going on. But, it's still a business that you run, and there are still things that you have to deal with. So we'll get into all of that conversation. But, first, I just kind of want to ask you, share your story on what got you into wanting to be a piano teacher and what led you to that path.
Well, it started when I was in kindergarten. My first lessons I began in kindergarten and continued all the way through high school. I had the dream I wanted to be that concert pianist up there on Carnegie Hall. That was my dream, to play Carnegie Hall. And got to college, and it was like, nope, you're not gonna, most pianists don't make it to Carnegie Hall.
Sure.
And at that point, I just kind of gave up because, oh my gosh, I didn't want to be a teacher like my mother. And so I still studied and I took some classes and stuff, but life went on. And then in my later 20s, I was driving home from work one day, and this little voice whispered, you can still study piano, even though you're not going to be a concert pianist. And that sounds like a real silly statement, but to me, it was like an epiphany, oh, wow. Yeah. So I went home, called the first person that I could find that was close to me. And that happened to be a blessing, because when I started taking from her, I took about 3 months and went, well, she's not that much better than me. If she can teach, I can teach.
Sure.
And so something just told me I needed to get into teaching. And so I started, I was able to buy my grand, and we started. And of course, it's always slow starting. And I came to a crossroads of, I don't know what I'm supposed to do. I don't know which way God wants me to go. Does he want me to go back? I gotten laid off. And does he want me to go back to what I was doing, or does he want me to really push the piano studio? And we had some friends over one night. We had Bible study, and we've been praying. And I was like, I don't know what to do. I don't know. And they're leaving, and I'm talking, and your dad went and answered the phone and came back and goes, it's for you. So I went over while I'm just saying, I don't know what God wants me to do. I keep praying, and he doesn't tell me anything. And the phone, got on the phone, and this lady says, are you Karen Dandino? I said, yes. She said, you still accepting students? I said, yeah. She goes, well, I got 10. I'm moving to Las Vegas. Do you want them?
There you go.
Like, okay, God, I know what you want me to do. And so, and so for the next 30 years, after about 30 years, I had to take about 5 years off, and I've gone back to the struggles again of restarting a studio in a whole different world than it was then. But that's, and like you said, a lot of people don't think of a piano teacher as a business. They think of the little old lady down the street who gives lessons just to get her hair permed once a week at the beauty parlor type of thing.
Sure.
But a lot of teachers, a lot of pianists out there, they're serious. We study, we practice. My last coach was Dr. Elena Balabanova, who is a Russian Moscow grad who is concert pianist and a Steinway artist. And I studied from her to the point that someone asked me if they wanted me to get a sponsor for me to play Carnegie Hall. That time I was like in my 50s. I'm nah,
I'm good now.
Like, oh, she's like, this other person's got one, and they're not as good as you, and let me find you one. And I was like, no. So we're serious about it, and serious about teaching, and serious about the growth of our kids, and so people don't realize that. They think it's just a little extra correct, like the dad soccer coach, type of thing. But we're not. We're professionals. Not all, but a lot of us are. So that's
No, that makes perfect sense. And, it's, you just kind of mentioned, taking care of the kids, and it's not just, sitting down, listening to them play for an hour, and then moving on. So, what is your approach to kind of the prep work when it comes to being a piano teacher? When it comes to developing lesson plans and measuring where a student is, kind of what is your approach on some of those things?
Well, it's not as cut and dry as like a school teacher where you can have a set plan for what you're going to get because it's a one-on-one. And a lot of it, there's a lot of variables. Like, did they practice this week? How did they practice this week? Um, is this piece the right piece for them? But it's one of those things where you lay in bed the night before and you think through your at least for me, I think through my kids and know what they're coming, and I have a set thing in mind of what I want them to accomplish if they've practiced. But like for instance, I had this one little student come Monday. She'd been doing great. I have a whole course I'm putting out on Google about on practicing, a course that you take. And so I've been
Mhm.
using them to go through and make sure I have the right verbiage and stuff. She'd been doing great. Showed up this week.
Nope.
No. And so everything I wanted to do, which included moving on to a new piece, didn't happen.
Yeah.
So you have to be able to adjust what you're doing. I think the biggest thing that most really serious piano teachers that strive to be really good at it is having a real understanding of a ton of music, but also understand how kids learn, how
Mhm.
they're and every child is different, but
Sure.
understanding how the brain connects to the mouth, which connects to the ears, which connects to the hands, um, and being able to adjust your lesson, especially if you see something's not working, then you go into your bag of tricks that have been
Mhm.
developed over the years, or you remember Donna Maxwell, I got a bunch from
Yep.
her, and all this kind of stuff learned from other teachers, and some of it's trial and error, but some of it is expertise. You're looking at them and they're having problems with dexterity or that type of thing. So your lesson plans are kind of, you have a set plan, you have a set how you want each piece to practice, especially at the beginning. But you have to be able to adjust too.
Right.
That makes sense?
No, I think it does. And the connection I see there, a lot of people might be sitting there saying, like, how does a small piano studio correlate at all to owning a restaurant or running, I had a concrete
Yeah.
business owner, like how do those things equate? But what I'm hearing you talk about, that ability to adjust and
Mhm.
needing to recognize different variables in your business that you are going to have to adjust how you do things.
Yep.
For concrete business owner, that might be time of year,
Mhm,
right?
yeah, or
Know,
a storm comes up, and you've gotta adjust your
exactly.
schedule. Or just, like the electrician, they need to lay the groundwork, but it's all frozen, so you have to adjust what you're doing. And,
Mhm.
or you run into something that it doesn't go fit the plans. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, it's good to have plans, it's good to have a lot of music that you have as far as at this level, this is the supplemental music we use, this is what we do, but you have to be able to know what the differences are in the books and how each one is different. So it might work on this student, or this student needs something more like that
Yeah.
other book. And and then technique. You've got to really understand how the body works. You've got to understand you're playing piano, not just with your fingers. Yes, people, what do you play piano with? They'll say fingers. They'll
The
look at your
fingers, right?
fingers and they'll look at my hands and they'll go, "Oh, your fingers are too short to play." And it's like, no, they're nice and wide. But you literally play from your toes all the way up through down and into your hands, from the joints here, everything
Yeah.
is and if it's not, that's where you hear of people getting injured, getting hurt, or little kids maybe not hurt, but their fingers will lock up, their hands will lock up, and they don't tell you that their back hurts, but they don't want to sit at the piano. So
Right.
plus they all want to play fast. We want to play
Sure.
fast. And some kids, it's natural, but you've got to understand how to teach the finger independence in the moving so that you can progress into that. And you've got to understand how the body works, really, also.
Yeah.
My
Well,
anatomy classes came in handy. They really did.
yeah. Well, I mean, I
Mhm.
liken that to, a restaurant owner. They have to know their clientele.
What
and
they'll eat, yeah.
we're not talking about, necessarily joints and fingers and dexterity and stuff, but what you got to know your clientele. You got to
Mhm,
know who you're trying to attract, what makes them tick, what attracts
mhm.
them, and then be able to change that based off of different demographics, different times of year. And so having that agile mindset is really important to any level of business owner, whether it's you with
Absolutely.
what, 10, 20, 30 students, depending on the time, and business owner that has, thousands of people coming through their door
Mhm.
a month, kind of a deal, right? It's just on a different scale.
Right, and it doesn't matter if you teach for a school, like these music schools out there, or you teach
Mhm.
independently. You need to be able to do that, and you need to be able to you're constantly evaluating your student. You're constantly, because 'cause they'll come in and decide that this week they're gonna play like this, or they're gonna do something weird, and so you're constantly having to watch them physically, listening to them, um, yeah.
Yeah.
And still keeping them, you've gotta still keep them motivated, um, to some
No,
degree.
right.
Some of it
Well,
is
and it's like a
you gotta work, but yeah.
right. Well, and again, I'm just going to keep tying this back to, other maybe bigger picture business things. You got to find a way to keep your clientele coming back,
Mhm, mhm.
So motivated to keep coming back for piano lessons is one thing,
And to
but
refer you to other people too,
yeah, exactly.
that's
You
the
know,
biggest that's I would think in most businesses, that's the biggest thing. You do all the advertising in the world, but it's word of mouth that gets
yeah.
people there, and at least that's
So
as a piano teacher.
well, let's talk about that. And what is your approach to, how you handle yourself in terms of trying to get people to give that word of mouth? What
Oh,
things to go
it's
through your
hard.
mind when you're trying to, build that?
Mhm. Well, and you can do all kinds of things, but some of it is, at least in the piano part of it is building that studio, and then as you get more students, they do it. But nowadays with all the internet and all of social media and all of that kind of stuff, there's a larger way to advertise than 40 years ago.
Sure.
Um, there was a little magazine or a little paper that came up north that I advertised in, and it worked great, but those don't even exist anymore.
Right.
So, you have Nextdoor and you have those. Um, but I think it's also because I know good teachers here in town that they've been here for years, they've had great studios, and they're struggling. Um,
Mhm.
and I think part of it is what I've discovered in the last year is they have to be able to adapt to how students learn, which is not always a good thing, but it's a different thing. All the online stuff out there.
Mhm.
Yeah, Yelena was the first one when she left and went back to Seattle, who started online teaching. And I took lessons from her and hated it.
Sure.
But that was back in 2007. You had the camera on top of your computer, Um, but, what I've discovered is, um, another whole where I try to open up my studio, not just to the in-person traditional piano lesson, which that's word of mouth.
Mhm.
That can be next door, that can be Google, where you're advertising. You've gotta use the online stuff. You have to.
Mhm.
Um, but I've also started, especially for and like you said, know your clientele, more for older students or adults who wanna be self-taught and don't wanna be tied down to weekly lessons, then, use more of a video type of approach to teaching them, not even the Zoom stuff, because a lot of people don't like the Zoom stuff, and you gotta
Right.
have all kinds of good acoustic stuff to even know what it sounds like. So, even for my students that are here, if they're sick, if they're, um, oh, whatever the reason, roads, snow, and all these other people that they wanna take lessons or they wanna study, they wanna increase their skills, but they don't wanna come to that weekly lesson because time prohibits it, whether it's sports, whether it's,
Mhm.
kids, whether it's work, whether it's I'm 65 and I don't feel like driving today, type of
Sure.
thing. Um, the lessons can be done by them videotaping and sending me the video, and then I respond with written and video responses to them. They can, up to 2, 3 times a week. My little ones love it. This is one of the things that's changed in my teaching for my little ones. I have a 4-year-old, I have a 5-year-old, I have a 7-year-old. Um, the music they're in, I have videotaped the practice plan of each piece.
Hmm.
And so after I introduce it at the lesson, then I send email to their moms, the practice video with it. And yeah, it's really helped immensely. Because it reviews with them. 5-year-old, you can go over it and over it, but they're not gonna remember. And
Right.
mom's not sitting right there taking notes, and some of these kids, they wanna be independent. Um,
Yeah.
so or like my 4-year-old, I mean, she's a nurse, and so she goes to work and she's, "I can't remember what you said." So I send the videos, and it helps through the week, or even if they wanted to do just the videos, they could have, multiple. They can have a lesson and they can send videos and they can do whatever, but using what's available on, as far as resources, as far as the internet. Developing, I have theory that I'm getting on Google Classroom. I have a course that I'm finishing up for my students this summer to take, instead of giving them time off in the summer where my income takes a hit
Sure.
and dies.
Yeah.
No, they can, on their free time, they can take a course on practicing, like a 7
Hmm.
month course on practicing they have to hand in things, they have to send pictures, they have to send videos of practicing, and then I will critique them and send them back when they do it. Um, same with theory, do the theory. They can even do it, print it, then bring it to lesson. I can critique it, but it's trying to use what's available in our society now to enhance that traditional piano lesson. Does that make
Sure.
sense?
No, sure does.
Yeah.
I remember in the basement we used to have that old Apple Macintosh with the floppy disks,
Well,
and
and then when
uh,
the big old, camcorders came out,
yeah.
and this was actually your dad's idea, which was a good idea, is he secured a, tripod to the wall and the camera so it faced the students all the time, and the parents could send a video
Huh.
tape, the old VHS videotapes,
Yeah.
and I would just throw it in there and videotape the lesson. Now I tell them, bring your iPad, bring your notebook, whatever, you've got your tablet, and we'll
Right.
set it up. And, now getting them to listen to it during the week, I can't do that, but yeah, the Apple IIc was for theory, and I missed that
Yep.
because it was a lot of ear training, things
Sure.
like that, but we can get that through things on, like, I have some fun apps that they can get, and that
Right.
you go through, like the app store and get them and stuff. But
Yeah.
use what we have, because back in the 90s, I would have killed for the work I was doing through Trinity College. I would have killed for something to help me with ear training,
Oh
and
yeah.
I couldn't find any person that was willing to do it. And you
Hmm.
really can't do ear training yourself. So it would have been great to have what's available now for ear training or whatever. So I'm trying
Sure.
to, like, expand not just the traditional lesson, because mine are traditional, but expand using the resources that the internet provides as a
Yeah.
supplement to their learning.
Right.
And
No.
for those that want to do it through the program I have, if that's how they want to learn it, that, they want to do just the video stuff, that's great too.
Yeah.
Mhm.
No, it's awesome to hear a business owner. I've kind of heard from other ones as well in terms of how they address, yeah, these ideas of needing to be agile. I keep bringing up that word, being able to do different things simultaneously, right?
Mhm.
Because you're not trying to just pull in one specific type of people, right? You're talking about kids as young as 5 or 6, all the way up through adults,
Yeah,
and
I have a
at 4.
4-year-old. Mhm.
So that's a wide range of different things that you need to do when it comes to
Absolutely.
your approach and how you help them
Mhm.
prep and how you help them prepare to practice, and just keep them interested and keep them wanting to come
Yeah.
back. It's a lot.
And that's, adults, it's hard, especially if you're working, if you have kids, you'll have a week where you can practice, and then you have a week where you had hockey tournaments, Sound
Mhm.
familiar?
Yeah,
And,
a little bit.
and so this gives them the leeway of they can the weeks that they have more practicing done, they can send the videos. If there's a week that they weren't able to get to the piano as much, maybe just one video. Um,
Mhm,
but everything from technique to theory to performance. The other thing is having using that Google or using that Zoom and have like a monthly or a bi-monthly performance class,
hmm,
which I used to
okay,
do when I had the big basement in the studio before I had 2 grands and a harpsichord.
right,
I would have the kids come in and play. They need that because the recital or even if they just listen to other people play, or if we just talk about performance issues, performance anxiety, things that maybe adults and older kids were interested in, younger kids don't know that part yet, but,
right.
adults, and performance anxiety is a big thing out there, and people wanna
Yeah,
play, but it's scary, it can be scary, and,
yeah.
um, the coach I had before Dr. Balabanova, that's why I quit her because that was I got to the point that was where I was at, I was needing that performance anxiety, and so she couldn't do it because she had as much as I did. So it's
Mm,
also not just doing those piano lessons where you're teaching them to read and you're teaching them to count and you're taking them through the classics, but you're also thinking everything they need to be I call it, maybe it's all those years of being around an electrician, right? A toolbox.
yeah,
And they come
yeah.
into the house for their first lesson with an empty toolbox. And my
Mm,
job is to start filling that toolbox from day one. And that includes memorizing skills. How do you
sure,
memorize? Artistry skills, playing by artistry, practice skills, all the different ways of practicing, because it's not just sitting down and playing through and making a bunch of mistakes and counting that as a practice. The one student this last Monday, instead of doing her repetitions, she thought she could just do it one time and be done each day. And yeah,
right.
that's gonna work. But you also have in the toolbox, you have all the anxiety and all those issues that deal with that. So I need to understand, and I've spent a lifetime with reading, studying, classwork, coaches, studying all of that, including performance anxiety
Mm,
and how the brain works with the piano and yeah. So you have to be able to just keep filling that toolbox, but you have to know what tools to put in there, whether it's
sure,
round fingers, not flat, awful fingers, or whether it's shoulders down, from the basics all the way up.
right.
And yeah, so you have
And
to be
same thing can be said to any other business owner, you
mhm.
know? You gotta
You
pay
can't
attention to the
focus on one
details.
thing. You can't look at one little teeny tiny
Yeah,
um, tunnel vision. You've got to be able to look, and you have to be able to look at whether it is like you go to a restaurant and heck, I'm going to use Taco Bell, even though it's not a
sure.
small business. But when they took away that pizza, that Mexican
Yeah,
pizza, you know what? I quit going to Taco Bell.
yeah. Well,
And
you and a lot of other people.
yeah,
Yeah,
so what did they do? They brought back the pizza. The
right.
pizza's back. They that's you gotta to be able to look at what the students need in today's so that's why at summertime we use fun music. And
Mm,
I will one of the things that I do a little bit differently from my what I used to is that recitals we didn't do pop music or fun music. And I've kind of
yeah.
let that down a little bit. I had a little Star Wars going on last
Hmm,
fall and things like that because this is a different world. And
yeah,
attention spans aren't what they were.
right.
And so you have to give them rewards. They
Sure.
have to they have to but then on the other hand, I have the I can't jar, which sits on my piano, and if they say I can't, it's too hard or I don't know,
Yeah.
they owe me a quarter. In fact,
Ah,
she's got 50 cents coming to me, the one who didn't practice, that she owes me for the jar because it's all what they wanna do. It's if they're really excited about doing it and you keep that excitement fed, then you can keep that mindset positive. But then you have to teach them as they get into middle school that some
mm,
of that is on them, and they don't get that in middle school anymore. They don't get
right.
that you got to work a long time. Piano is not something that you learn, and that's and this may be something kind of off the thing, but I had a back you were not too old. I was playing we were at that church that I was playing at
Yeah.
church, and we'd
Yeah.
gone to a potluck, and I was sitting there, and to this day, I don't know who the man was. It was a small church, but I don't know who this guy was. And he came up and he goes, "I love your playing. I love the way you play on Sunday mornings. I want to play just like that. And you take adults." I said, "Yes, I teach adults." He goes, "Well, I want to play like that." And he goes, "How long do you think it's going to take before I can play?" And at that point, I was like, "Well, I've studied for 35 years." And you know
Yeah.
what? His face just went,
Yeah.
stood up, walked away, and I never saw the guy again.
Yeah.
So, it's teaching these kids from the time they're little, but even adults reminding them that things that we really wanna do, things that are worth doing, whether it's building a restaurant, whether it's building a house, whether it's whatever, the more you take time with it, if you the time that
Mhm.
you can, I mean, you have the business too, but you've gotta have that quality, not
Yeah.
just quantity, you've gotta have quality, and you've gotta have that standard.
Yeah.
So
I care for it for sure. Um, Kind of wanted to ask you what advice would you give to somebody who's interested in starting their own small business? Again, whether they're somebody who wants to be a piano teacher or somebody who wants to open up some kind of floral business, or just whatever the case is, like what would you give to somebody advice wise that's looking to maybe do that?
Well, first of all, don't be thinking it's a quick buck that you're gonna make.
Hmm.
It's gonna be a lot of hard hard work, lot of long weeks, those 50-hour
Sure.
weeks I used to put in, um, on top of you kids,
Right.
But, for me, and for one of the things that I saw that would and just in the piano thing, and then maybe you can take it into other,
Yeah.
is just because I've started teaching doesn't mean that I quit learning.
Mm.
And as you know, because you grew up with it, I never stopped. I mean, how many hours I would go practice after you guys were in bed till 2 o'clock in the morning, that type of thing. If you stop learning, or if you're trying to build a restaurant and you stop learning and growing, or
Yeah.
whatever it is, your dad would study electrical stuff. You've got to constantly keep learning. You also want to really get involved with other people in that community, not
Hmm.
just and even us little piano teachers have the Music Teachers National Association, or National MTNA, Music Teachers National Association. We have a local group, and that's
Hmm.
you were around at all those competitions I worked and everything
Yeah.
else. But it not only does it help with networking, but it also is you're around people who have the same passion as you do. And when you
Mhm.
don't want to do it anymore, it's just like the reason to go to church. You don't want to do it, you've got other people who do, or they're
Right.
on an up. You may be down and they're up, or vice versa.
Right.
And so you or vice. I would take Donna out for lunch with a whole laundry list of questions, and we'd sit there at lunch while I would rack her brain while I paid for her lunch. But I met her through the association. So all those type of things.
Yeah.
Um, and then like I said, you may have to like adjust how you're doing it. I never thought I
Yeah.
would be doing stuff online. Never even occurred to me till
Sure.
this last year.
Right.
So being able to adjust and grow, and yeah, and keeping up your skills, if not improving them.
Right. No, you can't get complacent, you
No.
know.
Mm-mm.
Um, just because you're the business owner doesn't mean that you shouldn't be learning what the chef is thinking and experimenting with. And you should know, when it comes to the servers, what are they doing? Is there better ways to optimize your business for efficiency?
Or
Right?
even
What
teach
things
them
are
how to
out
do
there?
their job better, or how to
Yeah.
interact with bad patients. You can. That's yeah. Bad customers, or customers that are
Yeah.
angry, and conflict, and things like that. Things that you can help your employees do. Me,
Yeah.
I just get to do all of it because I've got that angry parent I get to talk to or whatever. But yeah, so just because you hire somebody to take the orders, maybe they need your expertise on how to interact with people.
Yeah.
And but you also then need to see
Exactly.
them as people and understand and learn to read them too. Because if you've got a really good employee that gets burned out, you don't want to lose them.
Hmm.
If you're not paying attention, you will.
Exactly.
I'm a student. If I don't pay attention, I'll lose them.
Yeah. And it'd be just as painful,
Mhm.
there's a lot of things that go into hiring employees and training them
Oh,
and
yeah, and the money
getting them to
spent, yeah.
be
Mhm,
exactly, and
mhm,
it just goes back to one thing that you said, community, and
mhm,
that's something we talk about a lot on this podcast is community involvement and community outreach, and even if you're not doing it, tied directly to your business, right? But having that group of people, and one thing I've said before that I think me not being a business owner, my thought could very easily be that people get siloed. They get so wound up in their own business
mhm,
that they forget about finding that community of other business owners. They forget about finding the community, like how to interact with the people in their community to help,
mhm.
not just their business succeed, but help them stay engaged and help them keep growing. Right.
Exactly. Yeah,
Um, there's
yeah.
good thing for healthy competition, right? Like, I'm sure you're in competition with other studios out there, but at the same time, you all want to support each other, right? You all want
Well,
to,
yeah, I mean,
help each other out
you
where you
can be
can.
really good friends with them, and as you grow too, different teachers have different expertise, so you want to, you know, if you have, for instance, a student who she's 10th grade and she's decided that she knows more than you, and you can spend an hour every week giving her a lesson and writing pages in her notebook of how she's supposed to practice, and she goes home and refuses to do it, then that's when you get on the phone and you call your friend whose husband also teaches and say, I'm kicking her out and I'm sending her to you. I want your husband, he's the one that needs to write her because she thinks she's, better than, and so you use each other as resources too.
Yeah.
Or, you're great at teaching sight reading. I don't sight read so well. This student really wants to do more jazz, and you're more into jazz. So you learn how to use each other,
Right.
and
Yeah. No,
yeah,
but it keeps, if you lose a student there, maybe they send you one of theirs, or, just it's
no,
the way that
absolutely, yeah.
communities and businesses interact with each
Mhm.
other that is really, I think, a huge key. And maybe a lot of these businesses that are struggling, um, might be overlooking, right?
You
So
you know what it makes
think
me
about
think
it.
of? Is Miracle on 34th Street.
Yeah.
We started sending them from Macy's to all these other
Yeah.
places.
Yep.
Well over. That just made me think of that, but yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Exactly.
it's that same thing as, I can't help you with this here, but this person here, or if you have, back to the piano teacher, if you have somebody who is extremely gifted and wants to really, really, really be in competitions, and I'm kind of done with that anymore. I'd
Mhm.
find somebody. I know a few teachers in town that that's their passion. Go,
Right.
because you wanna do what's best for the student, but it also makes you look good. That's why
Exactly.
Macy's then all of a sudden started, you know, people buying because it reflected on their character, and so
Yeah.
that's, you wanna run your
It's huge.
business with as much integrity and honesty as you can, so when that person is standing there accusing you of, um, or insinuating that you're cheating them, or you should give them a refund and you didn't, you can look them in the eye and know that you were honest with them. And that's what
Yeah.
I've always been one of my things is being able to look at that person and go, that's not how it works. It was explained to you. This is what you get. But you've been honest with them and you've run your business in a way that when it refund is due, you give it so you know that
Mhm.
you've got integrity backing it. It's when you start,
Yep.
yeah,
No,
losing
that
that,
makes sense.
that yeah, so
Awesome. Well, let's have you go and tell everybody, where they can find information about Ascension Piano Studio, or whether they're, interested in taking lessons themselves, or if they have some kids or know of some family friends that
okay.
have kids that want to take lessons. Like, where can they find you?
Well, first of all, I do have the in-home studio. I'm in Colorado Springs. Uh, I advertise on Nextdoor, but I also have Facebook, um, Ascension Piano Studio, but then I also call my online, program is called Pathway to Mastery. They can, either one of those on Facebook, they'll be able to find me. I'm also on Google. where you can just Google Ascension Piano Studio. You'll find me. You'll find my website. My website, Ascension Piano Studio, tells you a lot about me, a lot about the online program that I do. It has sample videos. It has, some of my students playing, so you can learn a lot about me and the studio and my approach. It is a very classical approach. We learn the classics, we do, but so any of those places they can find me, and yeah, there
Awesome.
you go. Yeah,
Reach out and start
yeah.
up some lessons,
Yeah, seriously. Or like if they want to try, one of the things that I do is if they want to try the online thing, is we'll
Mhm.
do a free. They could do a free video. Well, we'll have like an initial meeting on Zoom to find out what it is that they want. If they've been playing, they can play for me so I can evaluate, and then they can do like an initial couple videos that I respond to them before
Mm.
we sign up. So it's like initial first lessons to see if that's something that works for them with the videos.
Okay.
And the student comes, it's that first lesson is a free lesson slash evaluation. If it's a brand new student, it's a lesson. If it's a transfer
Mhm.
student, it's kind of a combination. But we spend some time after talking with the parents. We spend some time, we're just working with the students so they know what it's all about and what it's going to be like. And
Right.
so, yeah.
Exactly. Okay.
Okay.
Well, hey, thank you very much. Some
Thanks
really
for
awesome
having me. I
insights.
appreciate
And,
it. Thank
I think a
you.
lot of people out there may not have thought about what it takes to be a piano teacher, and
A
all the
lot of
little
hard work.
things that go on behind the scenes. It's not just showing up to a lesson and them critiquing you for an hour, right? There's a lot of things that go on behind the scenes. And so,
All the hours
but
I've
then also,
learning all the music that I know and going through
yeah.
all those books and yeah, plus on my own, keeping my performance. I actually did perform to this year, Kevin.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Done it
I
since
think
I
I remember
had
you telling me
had
that.
to
Yeah.
stop for a while, but yeah, I actually played this year, dug out my Rachmaninoff and yeah,
Yep.
performed and yeah.
That's
So
awesome.
so
So,
they
I
should
mean, look,
performing, yeah,
it's a good example for any business owner out there. Keep learning, keep perfecting your craft, keep adjusting.
absolutely. Mhm.
So I hope that any business owner out there that's listening to this can hopefully take some nuggets of information and ideas, and try to apply that to their own, because there's always ways to improve, right? And there may be things that if again, I keep going back to a restaurant owner just because that's a very common business, but a restaurant owner may not think like, what do I have in common with a business with a piano teacher? Like, what could I learn from them? But
There
there's things
was
that we can learn from any kind of business.
Well, and there's one little thing I'll leave you with that
Yeah.
when, your kids were little and I went to one of my mini classes and things that I took, but I've never forgot this and I've always tried to live by it. And you can put it to any business you want, but I'll piano teacher. Do I want to be a piano teacher that teaches 1 year and then
Mhm.
takes what I did for that year and just repeats it 30 times for the next 30 years? Or do I want to be the piano teacher that restarts every year and adds and learns and increases and maybe tries different things,
Mm.
whether it's merchandise or food or how you're reaching people or what you're doing, you're changing every year so that you've actually taught 30 years, not just repeated 1 year 30 times. And
Yeah.
that's been my philosophy since I heard that your sister was a baby.
Mhm.
And so that's been 27 years ago. That's been my philosophy the whole time, is that every year, and whether it's adding new music or looking at things differently or like adding all of this online stuff that I'm doing. I mean, you're trying to change every year. And that's what you really, I think you need to do as a small business owner, because if you get stuck in that same pattern every year, you burn out, but the people coming to you, it's old, it's
Yeah.
dull. You have
Yep.
no excitement about it. Whereas you just added, yeah, whether it's adding more music. I got into, because more the romantic and
Yeah.
classical and baroque. So 1 year I was like, okay, I'm going to work on some more contemporary, and my intermediate and advanced kids were going to do more contemporary. So I spent the summer really digging through music and learning and figuring out where it lies as far as abilities. And so I pushed myself out of my comfort zone but it also was excitement for them. And then at the recitals, it was new music.
Yeah.
It wasn't just the same old things that parents have to hear every year. So I think it doesn't matter what business you're in. I think that's a good philosophy for any business, especially a small business owner is change it up.
Yeah.
Try and change it up.
Agreed.
Mhm.
Well, Mom, thank you very much for all the insights. It's awesome to hear your story and hear more about your business. For everyone out there, please make sure you check out Karen Dandino here at Ascension Piano Studio down there in Springs if you want in-person stuff. Also, check her out for all the online lessons that she provides, and then that kind of path. That's something that suits you more if you're not directly in the Springs or anything like that. So make sure you check that out.
Thank you.
With that being said, again, thank you very much for joining me, Mom. It was great having you on. I'm sure we'll maybe have you on again later on down the line. If you're a business owner out there that would like to have their own business highlighted on this podcast, please reach out to us on one of our Facebook pages. We'd love to highlight any number of and types of businesses. So if you are a business owner yourself, or if you know of a business owner that would love to be on our show, let us know and we can definitely get that set up. But with that being said, my name is Kevin Dandino. This is Behind the Small Business Podcast. Thank you very much for tuning in, and we will see you all next time. Take care, everyone.
Bye-bye.